Wow. So, thank you, Fred. I feared this. Okay? The deal was Fred talks for 25 minutes, and then I talk for 10 minutes in response. I've known Fred for a long time. He's probably the smartest person I know. He's one of the biggest, deepest thinkers that I know. How in the world does anyone respond to all of that stuff in a meaningful way in 10 minutes? And Jim just told me 7. I'm already down to 6. So let me do it this way. I'm going to ignore pretty much all the notes that I had taken and just I want to talk about the whole idea where I think Fred described very accurately sort of major issues that we need, and I think that exists between sort of what I would say are our traditional farmers and the organic community. It used to be the organic was sustainable. I mean, that was a terminology that was used a lot. Now everyone wants to use the term sustainable. And let me argue that that may well be the way that we bring the change that we need that has been so accurately described. And that it may well be through the science of the soil that those two dynamics come together. Okay, I'll talk just a bit more about that in a second, but before I do that, the National Farmers Union represents farmers of all sorts, large, small, organic, traditional, crop, livestock, you name it. We're a general farm organization, so we represent them all. I am pleased to note that we are seeing more and more of our members, and a growing part of our members, that are talking and thinking more along the lines of what Fred has described. But the vast bulk of the farmers in this country are what I would say are traditional commodity-based farmers. They raise 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 crops. Fewer and fewer as the years go by have incorporated animal agriculture into their farm, which has lots of implications, most of which are not particularly positive when you look at sort of this big picture thing. But I think my training is in economics, as Jerry indicated. I think that as these resources that Fred described become more and more limited, the rational person from an economic standpoint is going to begin to react to that. And we are going to have to come to the conclusion that we're going to have to change some of the things that we're doing. And we will make those changes. And as we make those changes, I would argue that we are going to get closer and closer to those kinds of things that Fred talked about. And here's a perfect example of it. There is, I think, and I farmed most of my life, and I took soils classes and all that kind of stuff at NDSU. But there has never been, across the field in agriculture, a deep discussion and debate about what's in that soil. And I think as we suffer more, everybody who is going to respond, whether through an ethical responsibility or from a sheer economic perspective, is going to come to learn that there are significant changes that can be made by working with those organisms in the soil, and that we will see this big dichotomy that we always wrestle with, the big traditional commodity kind of farmers versus the more organic, direct market, often described as smaller, though that's not always the case, kinds of farmers. We're going to see them coming together over those kinds of issues. And that is really, really important. Because if there's any message that I think we've really received over the last day and a half now, it is that we all need to be in this together. And we've got to find a way to bring agriculture together as we bring the rest of society around. What we make is that besides this economic driver, which has to come from research, I'll talk more about that at noon, is we are seeing enormous demand now from the new generation, particularly around food, where it comes from, where it's produced, how it's produced, that's going to help to drive some of those changes that I think Fred talked about. So I think I'm going to leave my comments at that. And I don't know who's in charge next. Jerry? Oh, they're conferring, so I have like 10 more seconds. No? Oh, I do. Oh, well, I think, no, I really think that I've sort of set the stage in what I think I want us to have a conversation about, which is how do we bring these different types of agriculture together? Because as we bring these different types of agriculture together, I think we will bring society together in a very good way. And that will feed into this overall charge that we have been given from on high. Okay, so let me just leave it at that, and I look forward to the discussion and the Q&A. Okay, Jerry?